For years, Karoline Leavitt has been a fixture in the political world, an icon of strength, ambition, and fearless communication. She's faced down controversies, broken barriers, and dominated the press podium with the kind of confidence and poise most can only dream of. But on one fateful day, in a moment that no one saw coming, she stood before the cameras, her voice trembling, her eyes filled with tears. This time, the confident and outspoken figure that we've come to know was suddenly stripped bare, her emotions raw and unguarded. In a shocking announcement about her husband, she left everyone stunned, and the truth behind her vulnerability is finally coming to light. Karoline's rise to national prominence was anything but conventional. Unlike many of her peers who hailed from political dynasties or had clear paths carved out for them, Karoline grew up in a small town in New Hampshire. Her family ran an ice cream shop and a used truck dealership, hardly the setting for a future political powerhouse. But even as a child, there was something about Karoline that set her apart. Driven, ambitious, and unafraid to speak her mind, she quickly made a name for herself. By the time she reached college, her ambitions were only growing stronger. While most students were preoccupied with midterms, Karoline was making waves with her bold opinions, writing provocative op-eds, defending Trump's policies, and launching her school's first broadcasting club. She wasn't just another student voicing her thoughts. She was making sure that people heard her, and heard her loud and clear. Her talent for making waves caught the attention of big names, quickly catapulting her into the spotlight of conservative politics. Her trajectory was rapid. From a Fox News internship to a prominent role at the White House, Karoline's voice continued to resonate across the nation. Working directly under Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany, she honed her skills, becoming an essential player in political communications. But her rise didn't stop there. She became a powerhouse in her own right, later serving as the communications director for Representative Elise Stefanik. In a world where young voices often struggle to break through, Karoline didn't just manage to do so, she ensured that no one could ignore her. However, what we're witnessing today is a side of Karoline Leavitt that few, if any, could have anticipated. The firm, unshakable woman who once commanded the room with her strategic insights and unwavering confidence is now standing before the cameras, visibly shaken, revealing a deeply personal and unexpected announcement. It's a side of her we haven't seen before, a side that no amount of political acumen could prepare her for. Karoline's career wasn't without its challenges, though. She first truly made a name for herself during her tenure as the youngest White House press secretary in history. As she stepped up to the podium for her first briefing, expectations were tempered. The press room was abuzz with skepticism, and many wondered whether she would crumble under the weight of the moment. Some assumed she'd play it safe, sticking to prepared scripts and dodging difficult questions. Others thought she might buckle under the pressure, but they were all proven wrong. Karoline's first briefing lasted 47 minutes, a marathon for any press secretary, especially a new one. But what really got people talking was how she handled herself. There was no pandering to the press, no carefully crafted answers designed to appease critics. Instead, Karoline took them head-on, challenging their narratives, calling out biases, and unequivocally stating that she wasn't just another spokesperson. She was in control, a role she owned fully. Even veteran journalists like NBC's Peter Alexander tried to press her with tough questions, hoping for a slip-up, but Karoline didn't flinch. She held her ground with confidence and clarity, making it clear that she knew exactly what she was doing. The skeptics, who had walked in expecting inexperience to show, found themselves witnessing a woman who was far from nervous. She was prepared for this moment long before she ever stepped into the briefing room. Back in New Hampshire at St. Anselm College, Karoline was already studying the inner workings of political media, learning how the game was played. Her knowledge would take her to the Trump White House, where she worked as an assistant press secretary and later as the national press secretary for the 2024 Trump campaign. It was in these high-stakes environments that Karoline didn't just survive, She thrived. What set her apart wasn't just her confidence or sharpness, it was her adaptability. She understood that the media landscape was changing. Traditional news outlets were beginning to lose their grip, while independent voices, social media influencers, and digital journalists were reaching larger and more engaged audiences. Rather than fight this shift, Karoline leaned into it. She didn't waste her time trying to win over legacy media. Instead, she took the White House's message directly to the platforms where people were listening. Her approach was revolutionary. In a media environment where the same outlets and reporters dominated the narrative, Karoline ensured that new voices, especially conservative ones, had a seat at the table. To the political elite, this was a shocking move. To Karoline, it was common sense. Millions of Americans weren't tuning into mainstream media anymore, so why should the White House cater only to them? And whether people liked it or not, it worked. Even White House Communications Director Stephen Chung called her first press conference the most successful ever. But success, as always, came with its share of controversy. Karoline was already a divisive figure, and the scrutiny she faced wasn't limited to her professional life. Her personal life became a subject of public fascination, particularly her marriage to Nicholas Rio, a 59-year-old real estate mogul 32 years her senior. People had their opinions. Was it love, or was it strategy? Was it a scandal, or just another case of a public figure's private life becoming the subject of public scrutiny? Regardless of what the world thought, Karoline didn't let the noise affect her. She had bigger battles to fight, and she was ready to face them. Then, everything changed. On July 13, 2024, during a Trump rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, the atmosphere was electric. The crowd was energized, but suddenly, shots rang out. Chaos erupted. A bullet struck the former president. Secret Service agents swarmed the scene, and panic spread among the crowd. The footage of the incident played on an endless loop across news stations, its weight felt by millions across the country. But for Karoline, it was more than just another political event. She was watching, frozen, from her home in New Hampshire, cradling her newborn son. The realization hit her hard. This was no longer about just Trump. This was about the future of the country, and it was about her family's future. Despite the rawness of the moment, Karoline made a decision. Just 4 days after giving birth, she told her husband, "I'm going back." 4 days. The public was stunned. How could she do it? Why would she? Her body was still recovering from childbirth. But for Karoline, the choice was clear. She wasn't just a new mom, she was a political fighter, and there was no time to lose. This moment in Karoline's life isn't just a personal decision. It's a reflection of the incredible strength and drive that has defined her entire career. It's a moment that shows just how far she's willing to go to protect her family, her country, and her future. As she steps back into the fray, facing both political and personal battles, Karoline Leavitt proves that no matter the circumstances, she will always fight on her terms. Her story is far from over. What happens next remains to be seen. But one thing is clear. Karoline Leavitt's journey from small-town girl to political powerhouse, from confident leader to vulnerable human being, is far from the final chapter. The truth is, her most compelling and unpredictable moments are still ahead. When Karoline Leavitt returned to the public eye just days after giving birth, her decision was met with both admiration and incredulity. After all, how could someone so fresh off the intense experience of childbirth, particularly one that had only just given birth to a newborn, jump back into the frenetic world of politics with such ease? To the outside world, it seemed almost impossible. But for Karoline, the answer was simple: duty. In the aftermath of the chilling assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump during a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, where chaos erupted as Trump was struck, Karoline faced a critical personal and professional turning point. Trump's survival was more than just a headline. It was a statement, a stark reminder that resilience, determination, and sheer willpower could overcome even the most harrowing challenges. If he could take a bullet and keep going, what excuse did she have to back down? This was not just about political posturing or chasing headlines. This was about the core of who Karoline Leavitt was, a fighter, a leader, and someone who understood the weight of responsibility. At a time when her newborn son was just days old, she chose to return to work, fully aware of the intense scrutiny that would follow. "The least I could do was get back to work," she later said. For Karoline, it wasn't a matter of proving anything to anyone. It was about keeping her word, standing firm, and doing what was required. Some saw it as loyalty, others labeled it as madness. But for Karoline, there was no other choice. The decision to return to work, despite the physical and emotional challenges of being a new mother, was made with the same resolute determination that had fueled her career. In many ways, it was a gut check, a reminder of why she had sacrificed so much to get to this point. It wasn't just about politics, it was about the future. It was about fighting for her country, for her family, and for the path she had chosen. However, balancing motherhood and politics wasn't without its difficulties. One moment, Karoline was standing at the White House podium, confidently addressing the media, and the next, she was at home wondering if her infant son even remembered what she looked like. "Leaving my child every day was heartbreaking," she admitted. Yet this wasn't a woman who slowed down. Quite the opposite. She kept moving forward, resolute and unyielding. Behind the scenes, her husband, Nicholas Rio, was there, quietly supporting her in ways most people didn't see. While Karoline faced the daily grind of Washington politics, Rio, a real estate mogul, was at home ensuring their son was well taken care of. Though he wasn't in the spotlight, his role was indispensable. His steady presence allowed Karoline to pursue her career without compromising her family's needs. Rio's job in the real estate world provided the flexibility to step up at home, giving Karoline the space to focus on her work without the added stress of childcare. For Karoline, the assassination attempt on Trump was more than just a political moment. It was a deeply personal one. It underscored her reasons for choosing this path, for sacrificing personal time and comfort, and for remaining in the public eye despite the toll it took. "This is why I'm doing this. This is why stepping away isn't an option," she reflected. The attempt on Trump's life wasn't just a political crisis. It was a reminder that moments of crisis are when resilience is most needed. And Karoline, a woman defined by her determination, wasn't going to let anything deter her from her mission. But while she appeared calm and collected in public, Karoline was also quietly carrying a burden that no one expected. Beneath her polished exterior, she was about to make an announcement that would shake the political world to its core. It wasn't just about her return to work or her role in the White House. It was about her marriage to Nicholas Rio, the man who had supported her every step of the way. In a world where relationships between political figures are often scrutinized like detective cases, Karoline's marriage to Rio had been the subject of much chatter. The age gap between the two was one of the first things people noticed: 32 years. It wasn't just a minor detail, it became the focal point of public discussions. Social media exploded with opinions, some supportive, others critical. People mocked the couple, with some calling Rio her father, or questioning whether their relationship was opportunistic. Yet Karoline was unshaken. Her response to the criticisms was always the same: "He's my #1 fan, the best dad, and the best man I've ever met." For Karoline, there was no need to defend herself against the noise. The relationship she shared with Rio was a private one, built on mutual respect and a deep connection that didn't need public validation. When it came to their engagement, there were no extravagant proposals, no media spectacle. On Christmas Day 2023, Rio simply asked, and Karoline simply said yes. The next day, she shared a single photo, a quiet moment of joy, with Rio on one knee, the winter light catching the diamond ring. "The best Christmas of my life," she captioned it. No drama, no theatrics, just a genuine, heartfelt moment between two people who knew exactly what they had. Their wedding was equally understated. In stark contrast to the usual high-profile political weddings, Karoline and Rio's ceremony was a private affair. There were no magazine spreads, no press releases, no anonymous leaks about the event. Karoline didn't even make a big announcement. She simply updated her social media bio with one word: wife. That was all. The marriage didn't slow them down. It propelled them forward. Karoline, now settled into one of the most demanding roles in American politics, continued to rise in prominence. Rio, on the other hand, remained firmly out of the spotlight, running his real estate empire while remaining a constant source of support for Karoline. When Karoline shocked the public by returning to work just 4 days after giving birth, people couldn't help but ask how she managed it. The answer was simple: Rio. While she faced the press, he was at home, taking care of their newborn son. He was her greatest supporter, the man who gave everything without asking for anything in return. His presence, though quiet and behind the scenes, was felt deeply by Karoline. He was the rock that allowed her to do what she did without the fear of compromising her family's well-being. What most people didn't realize was how much Rio had sacrificed in his own right. His role wasn't just that of a supportive husband, it was that of a partner in every sense of the word. While Karoline was out in the public eye, he was doing the often unseen work of holding their personal life together. His love and commitment to her were just as much a part of her success as her political acumen and determination. As Karoline Leavitt continues to make waves in the political world, it's clear that her journey is far from over. But behind every bold move she makes, there is a quiet force: her husband, Nicholas Rio. Together, they form a partnership that defies the norms of political power couples. Their love, their shared sacrifices, and their mutual respect continue to fuel Karoline's rise. While the world watches and scrutinizes, one thing remains clear: this woman is unstoppable. And with Rio by her side, she's poised to conquer whatever challenges come next. For years, Nicholas Rio stood quietly in the background, never seeking the spotlight as his wife, Karoline Leavitt, made history as the youngest White House press secretary. While Leavitt dazzled the public with her fierce political prowess and sharp media handling, Rio was content to let her shine. He was the supportive husband, a well-dressed presence in the background, nodding along, yet he was so much more than just a silent figure in the shadows. The truth about him, however, would soon come to light, revealing a story that no one had expected. In a world obsessed with power couples, Rio had always stayed out of the limelight. People assumed he was just another wealthy businessman who had climbed the ranks of success with ease. But the reality was far from it. Before the success, the millions, and the political influence, Nicholas Rio had nothing, not even the privilege of a safety net. At 18, while most young adults were navigating college applications and the uncertainty of their futures, Rio was homeless. With no family to turn to, no guiding hand to show him the way, he had to figure things out alone. Instead of letting this hardship define him, Rio saw it as an opportunity, one that most people in his position would have overlooked. Failure simply wasn't an option for him. While others around him struggled to survive, he worked relentlessly, hustling to find a way out of his situation. Without connections, without money, and with nothing but his wits, Rio saved every penny he could, investing in his future rather than giving in to despair. By the early 2000s, Rio had begun to notice the rundown properties of Hampton Beach, New Hampshire, places that no one else would touch. To the average eye, these properties were a lost cause, but Rio saw them as diamonds in the rough. He started small, buying up properties that had been abandoned or forgotten by others, transforming them into highly sought-after rental units. With each property he acquired, He reinvested every penny he earned back into his business, never overextending, always playing it safe and strategic. By 2005, Rio's efforts began to bear fruit. He had successfully turned around 15 buildings and 70 rental units, all while building a reputation as someone who could see value where others couldn't. His empire, Rio Enterprises LLC, expanded across New England, with the same approach that had initially propelled him to success. Buy what others overlooked, turn it into something valuable, and always keep a steady hand on the reins. He wasn't in it for the flash or the recognition. He was in it for the long game, and it paid off. By the time the world knew his name, Rio was already a multimillionaire. But his success wasn't solely measured in dollar signs. His properties had become something more. They had evolved into gathering places, quiet hubs for conservative political movements. While others made noise, Rio was making moves, laying the groundwork for a powerful network that would have a profound impact on American politics. His properties weren't just real estate investments. They were meeting grounds for influential figures in conservative circles. They became spaces where ideas were exchanged, strategies were devised, and connections were made that would shape the future of the movement. What truly set Rio apart, however, was his approach to influence. Unlike other wealthy businessmen who flaunted their success with Instagram posts next to their private jets or wrote books about their hustle, Rio never sought attention. He wasn't interested in the glamorous side of success or in getting credit for his achievements. While other moguls were attending TED Talks and seeking public admiration, Rio was quietly working behind the scenes. His focus wasn't on clout or fame, it was on results. Perhaps one of the most telling aspects of Rio's success was how he chose to use his wealth and influence. Instead of simply donating money to political causes, Rio played a much more active role in shaping the conservative landscape. His properties became venues for Women for Trump gatherings, a powerful and influential group that played a significant role in Donald Trump's political campaign. Rio's role in these gatherings wasn't as a passive donor. He was a strategist, ensuring that his business ventures had a meaningful impact on the political landscape. While others might have used their resources to flaunt their connections or score political points, Rio used his to quietly steer the ship, providing the infrastructure and support necessary to advance his cause. Despite his growing influence, Rio continued to shun the spotlight. He didn't need to be in the public eye to make a difference. His work spoke for itself. He wasn't interested in name-dropping or leveraging his connections for personal gain. He believed in letting his actions do the talking, and that approach made him even more intriguing. The most powerful people, after all, aren't the ones making the most noise. They're the ones pulling the strings from behind the scenes. And Rio was a master at doing just that. As Karoline Leavitt's career skyrocketed, Rio's quiet yet pivotal role became even more apparent. He wasn't just a passive observer in his wife's meteoric rise. He was a key player in her success. While the world marveled at Karoline's political acumen and media savvy, Rio was the one keeping their personal life together. He was her greatest supporter, the man behind the scenes making sure everything ran smoothly so she could focus on her work. His sacrifices were just as significant as Karoline's, though they often went unnoticed. But the moment came when Karoline finally revealed the truth about Nicholas Rio to the world. For years, he had stayed out of the spotlight, allowing Karoline to shine. But now, as her career reached new heights, she knew it was time for people to understand the full scope of his story. He wasn't just a wealthy businessman who happened to marry a powerful political figure. He was a self-made man with a remarkable journey of his own, a journey defined by resilience, grit, and an unwavering commitment to doing things on his own terms. In the world of politics, where every relationship is analyzed and dissected, Rio's quiet yet influential role in his marriage to Karoline has become something of a mystery that only deepens as the truth unfolds. As Karoline continues to make history, it's clear that she isn't just standing on her own. She has a partner who has been with her every step of the way, making sure that their family, their business, and their values stay intact. And that quiet strength, that ability to move behind the scenes without seeking recognition, is what truly sets Nicholas Rio apart. In a world where the loudest voices often dominate, Rio's subtle yet undeniable influence proves that sometimes the most powerful people are the ones who stay out of the spotlight. And as his story continues to unfold, it's clear that Nicholas Rio is a force to be reckoned with, just in a way that no one expected. Nicholas Rio never craved the spotlight. In a world obsessed with social media and public recognition, he was an anomaly, completely absent from Instagram, magazines, and interviews. His presence online barely existed, and for years, he was content to stay in the shadows. But when he married Karoline Leavitt, his life changed. Their relationship, particularly the age gap between them, quickly became a subject of intense scrutiny and speculation. People criticized their marriage, doubting its authenticity and speculating it had to be transactional. What many didn't realize was that their marriage wasn't about optics or power moves. It was grounded in shared values, mutual respect, and a deep understanding of what mattered most: stability at home. While Karoline was thrust into one of the highest pressure jobs in politics, Rio made sure their home remained just that: home. When their son, Nicholas Robert, was born, Rio didn't hesitate to step back from his booming real estate empire. This wasn't a sacrifice for him, it was a choice to prioritize his family over everything else. And it was something he did with no second thoughts. For a man who had built an empire from scratch, stepping back could have been seen as a grand sacrifice. But for Rio, it wasn't about giving something up. It was about doing what had to be done. It was what every parent does when they're fully committed, shifting priorities without hesitation. But despite his quiet nature and desire to stay out of the public eye, the truth about Rio's role in their family's success could not be hidden for long. The world couldn't help but wonder how Karoline was managing to balance her all-consuming political career, a newborn son, and the pressures of public life. She had returned to work just 4 days after giving birth, a feat that many hailed as inspiring, while others questioned how it was even possible. But as Karoline stood before the press one day, composed as ever, something shifted. She took a deep breath and let her guard down in a moment no one saw coming. With her voice uncharacteristically raw, she admitted the truth. "I couldn't have done any of this without my husband." In that moment, the man who had spent years intentionally staying in the background became the center of attention. The man who had been the subject of rumors, speculation, and intrigue was finally revealed for who he truly was: Nicholas Rio, the quiet force behind Karoline's success. He wasn't just a wealthy businessman or a passive spouse. He was the reason their family remained grounded, and their lives didn't fall apart under the weight of Karoline's demanding job. Karoline spoke candidly about how Rio had shifted his entire schedule and life to ensure their family's needs were met. Long before their son was even born, Rio had made a conscious choice to step back, putting his empire on hold to make sure that Karoline's career and their family life could thrive simultaneously. It was an act of love, not sacrifice. When Karoline expressed her desire to return to work quickly after giving birth, Rio's response was simple: "We'll figure it out." And they did. The reality of motherhood, especially when juggling such a high-profile career, wasn't always easy for Karoline. There were moments of guilt and heartbreak, moments when it felt impossible to leave her newborn son each day. But Rio was there, not offering empty reassurances or vague pep talks, but stepping up in every way possible. As Karoline admitted, knowing that Nicholas was home with their son made everything possible for her. Rio was not just the quiet partner, he was the pillar of their family, the one who made sure their son was loved and cared for, so Karoline could fulfill her role in the public eye without worry. That press conference marked a turning point. Karoline, known for her composure, teared up as she acknowledged the immense sacrifices her husband had made for their family. For the first time, the media narrative shifted. It wasn't about who had the more impressive career or who was dominating the public stage. It was about partnership, about two people who had each other's backs, no matter the cost. Karoline's raw honesty about her marriage and Rio's unwavering support threw out the usual political script. It wasn't about ambition versus family. It was about the strength that comes from working together as a team. The media, of course, had a field day with the new angle. Was Karoline setting an unrealistic standard for working mothers? Or was she proving that women in power didn't have to choose between their ambition and family life? In a world where power often comes at a cost, the story of Karoline and Nicholas Rio revealed that true success is not just about individual achievements, it's about who stands beside you. Their story is a testament to the power of quiet support, mutual respect, and the unshakable foundation of love and partnership. While many focus on the loudest voices in politics, Karoline and Rio's narrative proves that sometimes the most powerful force is the one working silently behind the scenes. And perhaps, just maybe, their story will inspire others to rethink what true partnership and true success really looks like.